Good morning, Ken. How are you? Nice to see you again.
I'm excellent. How are you keeping over there in Turkey?
Well, as you might imagine, after your presentation in Retail Days back in December, how are things?
So it's Europe. It's no different to most of Europe. I think what's happening is, I'm a behavioralist. That's I'm fascinated by sociology, by the psychology of buying. That's why I do most of my work in retail. But I'm also fascinated by behavioral economics and by anthropology, by the way people live. So I've spent my whole career as a behaviorist looking at how people buy, why people buy, and helping clients and industries understand the new values and understand. And that's what my presentation at Retail Days was about. It was about understanding the new consumer, and marketing and retail has always been about meeting the needs of the consumer, understanding what they want, making sure that we deliver value to them and stay relevant. So what's happened in the last 3 months, and particularly the last, let's say, even just 6 weeks, is we've had the biggest disruption the world has ever seen, which is the biggest non-technical disruption. Because we've been looking at disruption for 20 years now, and mostly when I stand on stage and I talk about disruption, we're talking about technology. We're talking about the way technology has changed retail, the way technology has changed consumer expectations, whereas this is the biggest non-technological disruption we've ever seen. So as a behaviorist, I'll be honest, I wake up every morning really excited. I'm watching what's happening, and because things are changing so fast, and these new values are emerging that are going to be really important for businesses to understand. And we're in the middle of the forming process. So I'm watching values forming, which I'll be speaking about on stage for the next 3 years. And they're being formed right now. So businesses that are really understanding what consumers need right now and getting it right, they will be the ones that won't only win in the short term, but they'll win in the long term over the next 2 or 3 years. Every industry is affected. And unlike disruption previously that has had different countries at different levels, this is a pandemic that, of course, affects every single country in the same way. And therefore, we're going to see the same types of interact with me. And in this captive economy, what's happened is my freedom has been taken away. And I'm yearning for some kind of control. I want to try and control something. So I've started to look a lot at the psychology of captivity. So I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks looking at the psychology of kidnapping, the psychology of imprisonment, because actually all that research feeds into what consumers are also going through. We're going through a grieving process. The 5 stages of grief. You've got denial, it's not happening. You've got bargaining, you've got anger. And so we're in the middle of that phase where we've just come out of the denial phase. So the denial phase of grief is usually you don't accept that it's happening. So when we had our freedoms taken away as in society, we went into the denial phase with a level of excitement. And I'm sure maybe you did the same in your own home. It's like, oh, this will be fun, it'll be fun. We'll have parties and we'll have Zoom and we'll do jigsaws and board games and I'll play with my kids and I'll be the teacher and we'll do homeschooling and that was fine for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and now we're coming out of that. And now we're getting the anger phase. So people are getting angry now. They're getting angry at their partners, at their children, and certainly from a customer experience point of view, if you were playing a certain customer experience game previously, you now have to bring it up so high as a service provider. So think of someone working in a broadband call center, a bank call center. We now expect them to really be understanding, empathetic. We expected a lot more of our brands and business interactions than ever before. And the brands that do this well will develop a level of brand advocacy and brand loyalty that will last a long, long time, because people are very scared at the moment and they're very uncertain. And with uncertainty becomes, you look to attach yourself to anything solid. So any brand and business that can give you something that you feel that you needed, or that you feel that they're there for you, that kind of loyalty will last forever. So think about something simple like like many people, I have my internet Wi-Fi here. I run a business now from home. I work from home anyway a lot, but and my children are here more. So therefore, the demand on the broadband is they're bigger than ever before. So not surprisingly, I ran out of capacity. So I made a phone call to the broadband company. My broadband is with Vodafone. Within 60 seconds, the phone was answered. And I thought, wow, I was expecting to wait for 20 minutes, because it's everyone's got problems. And within 60 seconds, it was answered. A girl from Egypt, I remember, it was talking to me, and working from home in Egypt, but their system was working. I explained to her my problem, and she said, okay. She said, no problem, I can increase your capacity. In fact, she said, what we'll do is we'll double your capacity for the next 6 months for free. I thought, what? She said, yeah, we double your capacity for free just because it's COVID, and so they've already made this decision. And so anyone who having problems just gets this instant solution. So for me, even if another broadband provider in 6 months or 12 months time gives me a slightly cheaper deal, it's unlikely I'll move, So they were there for me when I needed them. And then on the other side, there's some financial brands that I'm interacting with that haven't shown any empathy. They haven't shown any consideration for the new normal, the new reality. And they're brands that I probably won't deal with ever again. So, as a consumer, we make decisions about who was there for us. It's a little bit like having a friend in a time of crisis. If your friend wasn't there for you, you'll remember that. Because even if they're closed, as in their business doors are closed, they think that, oh, well, I won't interact with my consumers right now because I'm closed. But actually, now is the time to be having really good conversations with your consumers, asking them what you can do for them. So there's a few new values that are already really solidly emerging. One of them is community. So, obviously as humans, we have this need to be part of something bigger than ourselves. That is just a tribal human need in us. And now that we're all isolated in our homes, we're feeling that even stronger. We're feeling that need to belong, that need to be part of something bigger. So that will last a long, long time. Even when we come out of this pandemic, of course, there'll be the big parties and there'll be the instant reconnection. But actually the need to feel a belonging to part of something will last for quite some time. And we've always talked about that before anyway. We've talked about tribal brand belonging. We've talked about communities, digital communities, but that will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think now as a brand or a business, you need to invest in how we can leverage community. How can we really be part of something? And also what's interesting is to watch the collaboration. So humans, again, by their very nature, because we're social animals, we like to do things with other people. And if you look at what's happening on Zoom and on all over the world, people are collaborating with their neighbors. So it's just, you've seen the singing on the balconies in Italy, and you've seen the applause on the streets for healthcare workers. And so everyone is coming together, but they're doing it collaboratively. I think the brands and businesses that tap in to collaboration and again in the long term. So it's about understanding it's not just us, the business, and you, the customer. It's the space in the middle that we can both feel that we're part of something. So I as a brand or business will bring this. You as the customer will bring your business and your peer-to-peer and your brand advocacy, and together let's create something. So I think brands that just continuously to go down the transaction model without really tapping into the human element, I think will fail. So there's a couple of mistakes made early. So for instance, Next, the clothing retailer in the UK, they closed all their stores, of course, when the lockdown came, and they instantly turned to online, and they launched a 75% off sale online instantly to try and drive the online channel. That seems strategically like a good thing to do. Your stores are closed, so you switch to online. But the backlash, the social backlash they got instantly for it, they were seen to be taking advantage of this pandemic because people were at home. They were seen to be kind of making them buy online. And they had a couple of COVID cases of employees in their distribution center. They were making people come to work every day anyway to deal with the demand. So the social backlash against the brand was quite strong. And actually within 3 days, they had to shut down their online offering completely and their warehouse. So, I think some brands got it wrong in the beginning. I think really empathy, because at the moment, it's not really about commerce, it's about care. So anyone going to the market with a commerce message, buy this, or I'm selling this, or it just doesn't sit well with consumers at the moment. It's about care. It's about happiness and health. So any business needs to kind of make sure its conversation and its communication is within that space. within the space of community collaboration, care, and digital. I think digital convenience. We're really in the last 4 weeks. It's been like the biggest. Another speaker, Stephen Van Bellingham, put it very well. He said it's the biggest digital training course ever in the world. I mean, everybody is suddenly on digital. My mother has done her first digital online shop. She's 76. Another staff member of mine, her mother was teaching 6 of her friends how to crochet on Zoom. Like a 71-year-old mother is now a digital tutor, so all these, so digital, we've always talked about digital being important in a customer journey, and we've talked about digital first always, but now if you ever want to see a step change, the need for your business to have not only digital delivery but digital first, genuinely digital first after all this is really, really strong. So there are a few of the values that are certainly emerging and they're global.
So is this change permanent, or once this is over, are we going to see what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, if I knew that, I'd be very rich. I think behavioral changes generally they can be slow to be adopted, but then they can be very slow to fade away also. I think there's 2 schools of thought. One school of thought is the V shape. So that we have, so if you think of even the economic progress that we're going to have, people think we've had a collapse of retail and hospitality and airlines and everything, big collapse. And then we'll have when it'll all be over, it'll all go straight back up, like a V. Mm-hmm. That's one school of thought. That's what we call the optimist. And the we're in the denial piece there really still. The other one is a collapse and then a very long plateau at the bottom and a very slow recovery, like the shape of a boat. There's a hard at the back, flat at the bottom, and then up. To me, that's probably the more likely in terms of economic recovery, in terms of consumer spending, and also in terms of behavioral change. So the changes will be sudden, and they will remain that way for quite some time. So I think the changes that we're looking at, I think the pandemic and the lives that we're going to live will be entire 2020. I mean, if you look at the reality of the vaccine is still at least 12 months away. When you think about that's only the initial vaccine, and the initial vaccine will be given to healthcare workers and the vulnerable. So for the majority of the population, we're looking at leaders have a shift in their values. How long will retail, will airline, will hospitality be different? At least 2 years, at least. 2 years. So people at the moment people are talking in weeks. Like, it'll be, the end of April, the end of May. I think things like social distancing, the new rules of how we shop, how we do events, I think they will be here for at least 18 months to 2 years. I think we will get creative and we will get ways around. So retail days, I'm sure will happen next year, just in a different way. I mean, we will get creative. We still have the need to connect. We still have the need to swap knowledge, to inspire each other, to hear each other's stories. So for instance, I mean, webinar, my business is standing on stage, usually presenting to large audiences. Now I spend most of my day at my fire, talking to people on webinars. There is still a need for people to understand and to want to be inspired and want to think about things. So we just need to get a bit creative about how we do things. But I don't think the recovery is going to be as fast as people think. And I think that brands and businesses need to really start thinking about the new normal and the new way of doing things and coming up with different ways of doing things and really trying to get that loyalty and that connection now, because that will be the thing that will really drive your success in the future.
Mm-hmm. So which companies are the champions of this crisis management, do you think?
I think some of the financial institutions have done very well. Some of them have. I mean, the biggest uncertainty for consumers is income, obviously, and part of the, some people are unemployed, some people have less income than before, but certainly your outgoings, and the biggest outgoing is your mortgage. I think that people have been worried. I think some banks have done very well removing all the bureaucracy, removing all the red tape, and having processes. I think the brands that have done well are brands that have put the human first and the process second.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your problem? How can I help? How can I solve it? And then when there's problems to do with process and banks are usually very good at bureaucratic stuff. So some of the banks have done a very good job of taking that away. I think if you look at who's the winner, let's go to China. So let's talk about China, because they were the first corona victim. If you look at Meituan, so Meituan as a business is a fascinating brand because it's a brand that nobody seems to know in the world. We all know Amazon, Facebook, Google, eBay, we all know Alibaba even in China, but very few people talk about Meituan. And Meituan is a delivery brand. Again, it's people on mopeds and motorbikes, but unlike they position themselves as the Amazon of services. So they want to be the person that delivers you whatever you need to your home, and they have a network of riders and mopeds now all over China. And this crisis, they were growing hugely in the last 2 years anyway. They were voted the most innovative company in the world last year, even before the crisis. And this is before Airbnbs and Facebooks, and they were amazing. And this crisis, of course, was an amazing gift for them. So they were able to deliver anything that the Chinese population wanted to their homes, and I mean anything. So unlike other lockdowns where you are allowed to go to the supermarket, in China you couldn't go to the supermarket. You could not leave your home. Mm. And so into that space, Meituan stepped, and they were able to link everything you needed to your home. Now that is a game change forever. I mean, if you think about it, Meituan have 600 million users. 600, that's twice the population of the United States. That's half the population of the entire China. I mean, so they're the scale, and they were able to deliver whatever you wanted to your home. Now, will that behavior change afterwards? No, that's changed forever now. That is now the system. The system is now, why would you leave? Everything comes to you. And that will ripple across, I think, the rest of the world in the next 2 years. As this pandemic goes on, we will get more used to things coming to us. So I talked in Retail Days about the blue dot consumer, the fact that we place ourselves at the center and we expect everything to come to us, just like that little blue dot on a Google map. That was already a value that was strong all over the world. It is now going to be accelerated hugely. So we expect brands and businesses to revolve around our needs. We expect the delivery piece to come in, but only brands and businesses that have invested heavily. And at the moment, there's a huge pressure internationally on delivery, on getting that delivery piece there and ramping up. And I think once we ramp those services up, we're not going to ramp them back. We're not going to put them back down again. They're going to stay where they are then. And they're going to have so direct to consumer as a channel is probably going to double, triple in size within certainly the next few months, and then it'll stabilize.
Mm. So which brands or companies failed to tackle this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, some have gone into hibernation. I think some are struggling with, if they don't have a consumer interaction every day, they don't know what they stand for. What it's actually uncovered is some businesses don't know why they exist. They exist just to sell transactions. And without naming names, because I get in trouble, I think, some companies just see their customers as a route to profit and as a route to giving their shareholders return. The brands that genuinely are caring are the ones that are they're winning. And so you have lots of examples of the big businesses shutting down their factories. So in Ireland, where I live, we make Jameson whiskey. We make a lot of whiskey, and they switched over from making whiskey to making hand sanitizer very, very fast. Much ahead of the rest of the world. And people will remember that. And it's a caring thing to do. Hand sanitizer doesn't taste as good as whiskey, but we'll cope. So I think the brands that still view their consumers as a walking wallet are the brands that we're going to shed here during this pandemic. And only brands that actually care about you as a consumer and are genuinely interested in the difference will probably survive. And that's a good thing, it's so, and you have lots of small, and you can see it at a local community level. So you can see that maybe the big Carrefour, the Tesco are doing what they always do, but it's actually the small mom and pop store that is actually genuinely helping and genuinely wants to help. And after all this is over, I think there might be a new acknowledgement of the importance of those local community retail, that they are the backbone. And we always talk about that, oh, it's the backbone of, but actually we all then go to the big corporates. And so maybe there'll be a little bit of a reversal of that, and a genuine, seeing the genuine connection that retail can have with its customers. Because at the moment, actually, retail and those working in retail have become the new celebrities. They're the new superheroes. They're the people that go to work every day and they keep us in food and they're stacking the shelves. And we have more appreciation now for them than ever. They were invisible to us 6 months ago. You wouldn't even talk to someone stacking the shelf. And now you probably thank them as you go by. You say, thank you. Thank you for keeping the food there. So there's a new kind of connection between the consumer and retail, which I think it's a beautiful thing, actually. And hopefully we'll be able to hold on to some of it. Yes.
Ken, thank you very much for your insights. It was really nice talking to you. Yeah, and yes, hopefully we'll see you again.
I will be there next year, I guarantee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much and have a great day.
You're welcome, you too.
Stay safe, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.